If you are watching this video, you are probably tired of watching many videos recommending Ricoh GR3, Fujifilm X100V, or Sony RX100 as your best pocketable camera options. Don't get me wrong, those are indeed great cameras, or you can call them among the kings of pocket-sized cameras, though some of them are still quite big to be pocketable. It's just not everyone has $1,000 lying around to spend on a camera. So today we are going to explore some of the cheaper options of those cameras without sacrificing the capability to take amazing photos, or even better than those high-end cameras in some respects, especially if you are aiming to get that filmic look straight off the camera JPEGs, which is precisely this channel all about. If you want to combine the word cheap and capable in a camera, then the answer is old. So these are 4 different kind of cheap, capable, pocket-sized camera you should know, so you can consider which is the best for you. Da, 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 da. The first category is what is often called the consumer pocket-sized camera. Most features on consumer cameras are set to automatic settings, often referred to humorously as being babysat or guided. You can find this consumer camera line on almost every big brand like Nikon, Sony, Canon, Lumix, or Fuji and Leica. This camera is the cheapest of the 4 categories that we are going to talk about. Though professionals often underrate this consumer camera, they are capable of producing excellent images. I had a Nikon S3700 with CCD sensors, 20 megapixels, doesn't shoot raw and feel cheap and plasticky, but I like it very much, especially for its size and the fact that it is lightweight. You can check my video about photo samples that I took with this camera. However, because it's all automated, you can customize your image setting, meaning that you can really control how your images will look. So you cannot experiment with different kinds of settings, or we call them recipes, to mimic, particular film look. But don't worry, you can always edit your JPEGs in post-image processing to get that filmic look, which is what I did with the photos that I took on the Nikon S3700. You can check my video on how I edit my photos to look like film. The second type is what I call the advanced consumer pocket-sized camera. So unlike the consumer cameras, this category provides more flexibility to customize your image internally. You will get that standard PTAM mode dial, which is program, shutter speed priority, aperture priority, and the ability to shoot in full manual. You also have control to adjust white balance, dynamic range, contrast, sharpness, saturation, and even skin tone. All of these features are crucial if you are aiming to produce that filmic look internally straight out of your camera. In this category, I had the Canon SX230 with 12 megapixels, CMOS sensors, which also shoots in RAW and feels a bit more premium than my Nikon S3700. Well, these advanced consumer cameras are supposed to be more expensive than the previous category. However, as I bought all of my cameras second-handed, I got this Canon SX230 for $62, while the Nikon S3700 for $75. You will be more surprised if you compare their prices when they were first released. They priced this Canon for $345 back then, and the Nikon, I believe, for $140. Interesting, isn't it? That is why we love old cameras. And of course, you can find this type of camera in your favorite brand. The third category is the prosumer pocket-sized camera, a made-up word combining professional and consumer. So this category shared the feature that the advanced consumer has with even more control. The Nikon P7000 and my Canon G12 and their equivalents fall into this category. Well, look at my Canon G12, for example. It has one of the best build quality on a camera. Even my Fujifilm X-Q1 and X-E1 do not share the feel as robust as this camera has offered. Well, at least that is my overly exaggerated opinion, but thoughtfully, this camera was built like a tank. Seriously. It also has many dedicated dials and buttons, and these buttons are really sturdy. You have your ISO dials, shutter speeds right here, aperture setting right here, exposure compensation, tilt screen, PT AM standard dial, shoots in RAW, and you even have a viewfinder with diopter adjustment, which is very handy if you are wearing glasses. Back then, you had to pay $4.99 to get your hands on this camera. Well, I paid $100 for this bad boy with some bonus lenses from the previous owner. You can check my other video about that, and it was my very first video on this channel. The Nikon P7000 more or less has the same build quality and features, so this Canon G12 is by far my favorite old camera. It has 10 megapixels CCD sensors. Well, I don't really care about megapixels. 10 megapixel is more than enough for me. I rarely print my works anyway, so even if I want to, with 10 megapixel, I can still print them on 13 by 9 inches with excellent quality at 300 dpi, or I can push them to 26 by 17 at 150 dpi. So, and then the last category is the premium compact, at least what I call them. This camera category might have fewer dials than the prosumer, but it certainly looks more luxurious. I don't know if that is the right word to describe this category. Well, you can judge by yourselves. Some cameras like the Leica C-Type 112, the Olympus XZ series, or my trusty Fuji X-Q1. I scored my Fuji X-Q1 for roughly $120 with some defects. You can check the detail of my other video about that. But if you are aiming for the Leica C, which is indeed shiny and compelling, it might be a bit expensive. And I don't think it is really worth it. You might just buy a more advanced old camera like my X-E1 instead of that Leica C, but it's up to you. The X-E1 is indeed way more chunkier than the Leica, but let me tell you a secret. The Leica C-Type 112 is almost the exact copy of Panasonic LF1. We don't know. it might be Panasonic that built this camera and marketed it as a Leica, as we know that Panasonic and Leica are besties. So, to sum up, if you want to customize your images internally, cooking your film recipes in different brands of camera, like what I did in this channel, you need to buy a camera that falls into one of the last three categories. But if you are more of a person who prefers to spend more on post-image processing apps like Darktable or Lightroom, you could just go to the consumer cameras, which is the first category, and they are the cheapest among the four. The other thing that you want to consider is whether you prefer a CCD sensor or a CMOS sensor. With the CCD, the proximity to have that filmic look is higher than the more recent CMOS sensor to that CCD limitation. Well, nevertheless, I like both sensors. The X-Trans sensor that Fuji has is actually a modified CMOS sensor. But I have to admit that I want my G12 more than my XQ1 when it comes to image imperfection, like the bloom of the light in this photo from my G12, for example. I don't see that often in my XQ1. Maybe it's the lens, I don't know. People even have to buy some filters to get that bloom in their high-end cameras. Funny, isn't it? Well, folks, it's time to say goodbye. If you want more top secret hacks and tricks to transform your ancient cameras into Hollywood superstars, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join me on this photographic roller coaster. Until next time, and keep snapping and keep it budget tight. Au revoir.